Greetings, my name is David Kahn, and I'm here to introduce you to the game of Go. This brief introductory video will cover the following topics. What is Go? What are the rules of Go? And I'm going to illustrate each rule. I'm going to introduce a basic concept that 2 eyes is alive, and then talk to you about some next steps as you proceed to learn more about Go and play Go. What is Go? Go is a 2-person board game that originated in China several thousand years ago. Players take turns placing black and white pieces called stones on a wooden board. The object of the game is to surround territory. Most people play on a 19 by 19 board, but teaching and quick games use 13 by 13 or 9 by 9 boards. A friendly game on a full-size board may take 45 minutes to an hour to play. A quick game on a 9 by 9 board often takes only 5 to 10 minutes. I'd like to start by showing you what a recent game I played looks like. In this illustration, this was early in the game, and black has indicated an interest in the bottom left area. He sketched out a loose framework, but this area is not secure. White has a fairly tight position in the upper right, a reasonably secure position on the right bottom side, and a position on the right side. But at this point in the game, everything is very loosely sketched. This is a picture of what it looks like in the middle game. Several interesting things have happened. Black has a fairly large territory on the left side. White is looking for the center, but it is not very secure given the large openings. Black has managed to crawl into White's upper area and reduce territory that White was looking to get. But White's territory on the right is reasonably solid, and Black had to give up space on the bottom left for an invasion by White stones. Here's what the board looked like at the end of the game. All territories and their borders are secure. White has the center and right side, but they are smaller than he wanted. The left side for Black is larger than expected. Black has more territory than White and has won the game. There are a couple of things I'd like to explain about the process of learning Go. First of all, we teach on 9 by 9 boards so that the games go fast. As you learn, you can start playing on larger boards. Go is easy to learn and is actually a lot of fun to play even as a beginner. However, there is a lot of opportunity to learn when you are interested. You'll never run out of material because there's just a lot of space there. Go also has an excellent handicapping system, unlike most games. The weaker player who plays black gets 2 or more stones as their first move. This gives both players a chance of winning. I start beginners with a 6-stone handicap on a 9 by 9 board. Beginners can win a game against me in their first lesson, and I don't even have to let them win. I can try as hard as I want, but I can teach them enough so they can beat me in one of their early games. Most Go players are very happy to play with beginners and review the games, so that is one of your best bets for learning. You can find people from Go clubs around the US and the world, and I'll be sharing a link to that later in this presentation. And there are also many opportunities to play online, and people played online even before COVID. There are very few rules to Go, which I'll explain here. They will become clear when you play your first few games, so you don't need to try to memorize the rules now. First of all, black plays first. Players take turns. They play on the intersections, not the open spaces, and stones don't move. This is an example of a sequence of moves that might be played at the beginning of a 9 by 9 game. It's common in a Go diagram to show the order of moves with numbers. In this case, black moved at C7 for his first move, white responded on G3, and so on. When adjacent stones of the same color are connected via lines, they form a single group. This illustrates a couple of groups. The group marked A is 3 stones in the top left, excuse me. Group marked B is in the bottom left and actually surrounds territory. Group C is in the top right with 4 stones. The 3 individual stones in the bottom right marked with a square are not connected and do not form a group. A liberty is an empty intersection adjacent to a stone or group. The single stone at C7 has 4 liberties marked with the triangles around it. The 3-stone group in the top right has 8 liberties, also marked with triangles. On the bottom left, the 5 stones that surround 4 points of territory have 9 liberties, 6 on the outside and 3 on the inside. If you fill the last liberty of an opponent's stone or group, it is captured and removed from the board. You also may not play on an intersection that doesn't have liberties unless it captures your opponent. These 2 rules will be demonstrated using an interactive demo board on the online Go server. In this first Go board, the black stone at C7 has 3 of its liberties filled by white on the top, left, and right sides. If white were to play at C6, the black stone is captured. If it is black's turn, black may want to protect that stone. So if black were to play at C6, now black's group has 3 liberties. White can continue to chase black, but black can continue to run. So in this case, black is able to escape from white at that time. In this second example, black has 3 stones that are almost surrounded by white. In this case, white can play at G7 and capture the stones. In this case, on the other hand, black cannot escape. If black were to try to escape here, white can play G8 and continue to Atari the black stones. No matter how far black runs, white can ultimately capture the group. So in some situations, the group that is being surrounded can escape, and in some situations, the group cannot escape. As I mentioned, you cannot make a move if it has no liberties. So in this particular position, white cannot move at G7. This position for white is an invalid move because it has no liberties available. In this fourth example, black doesn't have, there's only 1 liberty, and white can move there only because that captures the black stones. That's the last liberty. So you can play in a position that doesn't have liberties if it captures stones. And the last example of this set, it's the same situation with 3 stones that can be captured. If it's white's turn, white can capture those stones. However, if it's black's turn, black can save the stones, and those can now not be captured. So rule 6 is you may not play on an intersection that duplicates a previous board position. It's called the Co rule. I'm including it here for completeness, but don't worry about Co for now. This rule is there to prevent an endless repeat of the same moves with no forward progress in the game. It can be explained when it arises during one of your games, or you can take a look at this Wikipedia article, which explains the subject. One of the interesting features of Go is how the game ends. If there are no good moves to make, you can pass in your turn. The game is over when both players pass in turn. If you've passed and your opponent makes a move, you are still permitted to respond to that move. So you're allowed to make another move even after passing. But if both people pass one after the other, the game is over. Here's an example of a board position at the end of the game. Neither player has a reasonable move that they could make, so both players would in fact pass. The reason why there is not a good move is, let's take black, for example. Black would not play within his own territory, let's say at B2, because that would remove a point. Black now has a point for each of these empty spaces, and that would cost black a point to move within his own territory. Similarly, black would not move in the middle of white's territory, since ultimately that stone would be captured and become a point for white. When you get to the point where any move won't help you or will hurt you, you pass your turn. You get 1 point for each surrounded intersection and 1 point for each captured stone. White gets additional points called komi, plus a half point to break ties. Komi exists to compensate white for the disadvantage of going second. The highest score wins. This shows how you would count the territory in the game of the previous example. Black has 19 points of territory marked with the triangles. White has 16 points for the intersections marked with the circles. However, there was komi of 4.5 points in this game, and white captured 2 black stones, so white won 22.5 to 19. Note, this is called territory counting, and some people use area counting instead. Area counting includes the stones on the board, not just the empty intersections, but the winner and the point difference is the same with either approach. Now that I've explained the rules, there's one basic concept that I'd also like to explain before you play your first game. This helps you understand whether your territory is actually yours and whether your groups are safe. The examples are going to cover what happens if you have 1 interior liberty, 2 adjacent, 3 in a row, or 4 in a row, and these situations are all a little bit different. I will demonstrate these using an interactive Go board on the online Go server. As shown, black's group surrounds 1 space in the corner. White's stones surround black's group. Can black count this as 1 space of territory? Unfortunately for black, this group only has 1 liberty. White can move there and capture the black stones. So 1 single space that you've surrounded does not actually count as your territory. In this second example, there are 2 spaces in a row. Does this count as territory for white? Unfortunately not. Black has a move here called a throw-in. If black moves in either of these positions, white has a choice. If white were to move anywhere outside, black can capture 4 stones. If instead white captured the black stone, which white can do because black only has 1 liberty, that leaves white with a single liberty, and black can capture 5 stones. So 2 stones in a row is also not territory because of the concept of a throw-in. If there are 3 spaces in a row, such as this example for black, this is an interesting situation because this is either territory or not, depending on whose turn it is. Let's start with it being white's turn. It turns out if it's white's turn in this position, black does not have territory. White does this by playing in the middle. If black ignores this, playing elsewhere, white can go in one of the other places and either capture on the next turn, or even if black captures the group, you now have two spaces which we showed can be captured with a throw-in. If black were to move in this area instead, then white would capture on the very next turn. So once white occupies the central position in a three consecutive empty spaces, black can no longer save the group. Now, let's see what happens if instead it's black's turn. If black moves in the middle, that leaves two separate one-space liberties, and these are called eyes. A group with two eyes can never be captured. This is because white only can place one stone at a time and cannot place a stone in either of those positions since it does not capture the group. So a position with three is alive if it is black's turn. In this final example, with four spaces in a row, what's the status of this group? It turns out it is unconditionally alive, even if it is black's turn. White can count this as 4 points of territory. If black were to play, let's say at G9, white would play at H9, or vice versa. Black now cannot play in either space, and white doesn't need to make a move to capture that black stone, since it is guaranteed to be safe. As a result, at the end of the game, white will count this as 3 points of territory plus one capture. So in summary, what is the status of a group? A group may be alive regardless of whose turn it is. You have two eyes, or you can make two eyes. In this case, you won't bother making a move except to increase the territory if possible, unless your opponent attacks. You may or may not need to defend against attack depending on the situation. A group may also be dead even if it is your turn. The group has one liberty or can be reduced to one eye. There is no possible move to save the group, though the group may be useful as a co-threat, which, as I indicated, would be a future topic. Lastly, the status may depend on whose turn it is. It is alive only if it is your turn and you make the correct move. These are the situations that are particularly important to learn to recognize, so you play the defensive moves when you need to. If you're watching this video as part of a beginner's night or other introductory event, your next step will be to play some initial games with your instructor or another student. If you found this video on your own, find someone to play with who knows how to play Go, either through a local club or an online community. I've provided links here to pages on the American Go Association website that will help you get started. It is very helpful to play your initial games with experienced Go players. They will notice things that are easy to explain that other beginners will miss. Once you have played some initial games, there are many resources available to you. The Massachusetts Go Association met in person pre-COVID to play Go, but for now, all of our meetings are virtual. You'll probably find the same with other local clubs, but we all welcome beginners. There are also many books available in print and electronic format that will help you become a stronger player. The Internet Go School, where I study, has over 1,300 video lectures available for members. There are also many lectures available for free on YouTube. There are programs available for your phone or your computer, which you can play against or use as study tools. Thank you for taking the time to watch this brief Go introduction, and welcome to the Go community.